Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Krazy Red. I am coming at you dead, not live. That's right, my live feed is pulled for the next 3 months, but it's okay. I needed a little break from the monotony of trying to keep up a live show anyhow. And I apparently did get into some trouble talking about some things. So I decided today I'm going to just try and keep it light and talk about other stuff besides globalists and adrenochrome and all that crazy stuff. And today is March. What is today? March? Oh yeah, it's March 22nd, 2018, and I'm sure all you angel number people out there are seeing angel numbers 222 all day. I do actually see angel numbers. I started seeing them on Maui. The first time was the number 444, and a friend of mine was seeing the same number, and we both commented on it. And over the years, it has become kind of a thing. And I'm actually looking here at the angel number 222 explanation. It says it's all got to do with balance and manifesting miracles and new and auspicious timing opportunities, encourages you to take balance and harmony and peaceful stance in all areas of your life. And the message is to keep faith and stand strong in your personal truths. And I'm tired of fucking doing this shit, to be honest with you. I've been doing my best to balance and maintain my equilibrium while trying to manifest some miracles. And I've managed to stay sober. I've managed to stay out of trouble. I've managed to save up some money. But the truth is I'm super deep in debt now, thanks to my Pakalolo charges for growing fucking hemp in North Carolina, which I still wish I had just walked the fuck away or lit a match before I left. But we won't get into that too much. Today, I will admit it rankles me. And I'm like, when is something, when is something going to happen? Okay. Because I've been, I used to be able to manifest things. I thought I manifested my soulmate at one point. But that turned out to be a lie. My soulmate turned out to be a fucking total narcissistic liar, and lied to everybody, including me and everything else. So kind of hard not to be a little rankled about that too. And yeah, here I am trying to be light and just getting rankled like fucking crazy as usual. But you know what? Since I was looking at angel numbers today, and I was also doing some research on blood moons, because somebody had told me there was a blood moon today, but apparently there isn't a blood moon today, or at least I don't know that. I don't think there's a blood moon today. But there was a blood moon 2 years ago on March 23rd, 2016, and this was apparently the 6th blood moon in the blood moon prophecies. And if you don't know about the blood moon prophecies, there are 7 blood moons in the blood moon prophecies. The first 4 big ones were from 2014 to 2016. And I definitely had a auspicious sort of timing with that first blood moon. And if you don't know the story, I'm going to tell it to you today, because that's what I decided. That's how I decided to keep it light. Instead of talking about all this global insanity, I'm going to talk about my own personal insanity. And so that's why. Let me just give me a second here. I might have to cut this out later if it takes too long. Here it is. But so I was looking at blood moon prophecies and angel numbers today, and I came across something very interesting, which was actually from the Bible. And apparently there was, let's see if I can find it here. All right, so yeah, 2 years ago there was one on the 23rd, sort of a rare one. A lot of people believe the sixth seal was broken. And I believe the last blood moon was the seventh blood moon, which would make sense because then that was when the transformation became complete. And I'll get to all that here in a second. I just want to get to this passage. Where is it? Okay, so there's a lot of talk about blood moons in the Bible. But the most interesting one, and that has to do with the angel numbers, is apparently when Christ was crucified, there was apparently a blood moon, and it's even in the astrological records that there was a blood moon on, where is this fucking shit? Now I can't find it. Okay, here we go. Blood moon significance. When Christ was crucified, there was a blood moon, and a great earthquake followed. And it's recorded that a lunar eclipse of the 3rd of April, 33 AD, okay, lasted 333 minutes and 66 degrees to the horizon. Okay, so if you're into angel numbers, all right, and you want to know what the angel significance is to blood moons, it's in the Bible. It's got to do with Christ being crucified, and that there was a lunar eclipse on April 3rd, 33 AD. So that was supposedly the day that Christ was crucified, on April 3rd, 33 AD, which doesn't make sense to me, really. But whatever, that's probably, I'm sure there's some scholar out there who can figure that out. And it lasted 333 minutes. So there's your 333, which is the next angel number that comes after 222. Let's just look that up real quick, what that means, because I'm tired of maintaining balance. I'm a Libra. That's all we do is maintain balance, and I'm tired of waiting for my manifestations to come true. So let's see here. Angel number 333. 3 refers to the Trinity, which is receiving divine protection, help and guidance in most cases. If you're seeing lots of 3s, connections, blah, 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 blah. Let's see here. 33333. I'm sure 333's got something to do with something. 333 means that Jesus is emphasizing the message that you've been receiving. For example, you've been repetitive thoughts to take positive and helpful actions. The repetitive 3s are signs to take action without delay or hesitation. After all, most prayers are answered when divinely guided action steps. Okay, so I'll pay attention to that next time I see 333. Although I saw it today, so maybe that's a sign. And I tell you, I'm getting really anxious these days to get on with my life and do something besides hang around here. But anyway, let's get on with the show here, and talk about what I was talking about, how this all tying together. So, okay. Now, in order for me to talk about the blood moon prophecies and how they relate to me, I have to talk about some other stuff, including the valley and crystal skulls, because that's how this whole thing started with me. And now, before my own personal encounter with the crystal skull ever occurred, I, like most people, had heard about them, on TV, and saw the Indiana Jones movie and whatnot, but I didn't put much stock in much of that. And living out in the valley, which is supposedly, the Kalao Valley is the most spiritual place in the world, according to the Dalai Lama, I met quite a lot of what I refer to as spiritual thrill seekers, people who were out there thrill seeking and being spiritual and, oh, isn't this so much fun? And so I met a lot of these people, healers and crystal enthusiasts and people who were doing Reiki, and of course Julie, the sound healer chick, and trust me, she wasn't the only sound healer out there, or mystic, or healer, or gifted alchemist, or whatever, but she was just happened to be the one that got her hooks into me eventually. But for the most part, I was always skeptical of these things and didn't put much stock in them. But I would give them their day in court. Okay, I had another girlfriend at one point who was into Reiki. I let her try to do Reiki on me. Nothing happened. But I gave it a chance. I laid down by the river and let her, hover over me for like 10 minutes and nothing happened. But, and so it's just ironic how this whole story plays out, that after spending some time in the valley, the first time I saw crystal skulls in the valley was by this lady who had brought in 5 skulls. And she had a big one and 4 smaller ones. And I remember seeing them down by the river mouth where she was camping. And I really didn't have much interest in crystal skulls at the time, although I had found my first crystal at that point. But it wasn't a skull, it was just a regular, what some refer to as a Lemurian crystal, which I refer to as a quartz crystal. And it's interesting crystals. I've gotten to know them better. But I didn't have much interest or even curiosity about the crystal skulls, although I didn't really have any interest in fucking with them either. But they were down by the river mouth. They were left alone by this camp, and I waited around for this lady to show up. And I told her, I says, first off, you're probably not going to want to leave these crystals just sitting around by themselves, because, some hippie's going to come by and be like, ooh, look, manifestation, and just walk off with your shit, which is one of the problems that the hippies have out there, is they find shit and they think, oh wow, somebody must have just left this here for me to find. And of course she was like, oh, I don't think anybody would ever steal anything from me. Typical, delusionary spiritual thrill seeker. And then, I was more concerned about her camping so close to the river mouth, because that part of the river can flood that time of the year. And sure enough, about 2 or 3 days later, I found her up on the bluff, camped at Edge Camp, staying in a friend's tent, because the river had raged, just like I said it would, and all her shit got washed out. And she was like freaking out. And that seems to be a common thing in my life as well, where I see people who are fucking up, and they don't want to listen to me. They just want to pretend like I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. They got it all figured out. And then, it turns out I'm totally fucking right. And they're like, oh my God, I should have listened to you. Or in some cases, they don't survive what the fuck I was right about, which is sad. Because as much as I don't like certain people for certain shit that they do, I don't hate people to the point where I want people to get hurt or die. In fact, I'm one of these people that if you fuck with me, you lie to me, you give me, you bullshit me, I'll call you out on it. I'll tell you to go fuck yourself. But then I'll offer you a slice of pizza. I'll calm down from my anger and be nice about shit. But I just got to have like my moment. But I don't hold like long-term grudges very often. But there are a few out there that should probably just say they're sorry, get it over with, but they don't. But anyway, where was I going with all that? Oh yeah, well, the bottom line is I'm going to be probably mentioning some stuff along the way on this that's probably going to piss people off, but whatever, I don't give a fuck. So anyway, so yeah, that was like my first encounter with crystal skulls in the valley, which was, trying to help somebody else out who was, on a spiritual journey, and I was just trying to keep him from getting washed out by the river. And then not too long after that, I remember leaving the island for a while. I had some stuff go down, and I needed to take some time off from the island, and I ended up going to Key West, and then was on my way back to Key West, from Key West, back to Kauai, to go back to Kalalau. And I remember getting stuck in a snowstorm on the way out there and got stranded in Santa Cruz, California. Well, actually, it was San Jose, and then I had a friend who was in Santa Cruz. And I had to cancel my ticket and reorder another one and all this bullshit, and I was kind of stuck. I was, But luckily, I had a friend who was nearby, and I went to go see her, and she was staying with this guy who was nice enough to invite me to come stay at his house. And he's, I don't want to really throw him under the bus either with this, so I won't mention his name. But he's one of these guys who's like into apps and stuff, and so he had some kind of app for music, and he was doing sort of well for himself with that. And he's in the music industry. In fact, he's doing rather well for himself. And but he let me stay at his house. And the first thing that him and my friend start talking to me about is crystal skulls. And they had both just gotten, or at least one of them had just gotten back from the valley. And that's the other thing. My friend who I went to go see was the one who first took me to the valley years ago. So it's just kind of ironic that I was trying to get back to the valley and I couldn't get back to the valley. And then it was the person who had taken me there in the first place who had kind of come to my rescue on the mainland and then introduced me to this person who had just come from the valley. And the first thing they start talking to me about is about crystal skulls. And if I've heard of the crystal skulls of Kalalau, and I distinctly remember saying and listening to this crap from these guys and saying to them, look, if there's any crystal skulls out in the valley, some idiot from Santa Cruz probably left them there. And they both kind of looked at each other and smiled. And it turned out that this guy, who I'll be nice enough not to mention his name, he apparently had just gone out to the valley and he had bought 5 crystal skulls, same number as that the woman had brought out there, and had gone on. The truth was he was trying to play a game with a girl, like a treasure hunting game. So he was taking these crystal skulls and burying them out in the valley, and then leaving notes and shit behind and clues for people to find the crystals. And he kind of took this girl for a ride with it, and I think he really meant it just out of fun, like a really eccentric Easter egg hunt. But still, it was meant to be fun and playful, not to be like sinister or anything like that. But he went out there and he buried the crystals, and him and the girl found a note, and they went looking for a crystal, and they found a crystal. And they had quite an adventure. But the girl he had taken with him, he never bothered to let her off the hook. And this is a problem sometimes with people who think it's cute to sort of play games with people. It's one thing to pull a prank on somebody or to pull somebody's leg. Or when you first meet somebody, a lot of people are guilty of kind of telling some tall tales to impress the person. But then after a while, if you really like the person, or if you're just, like a normal person, you start to feel a little bit guilty. And so you kind of fess up and say, hey, look, I just want to tell you that, I put those crystals out there and it was just kind of a game I wanted to play with you. But he never did that. Instead, he kept playing this like head game with this chick. And of course, this guy was kind of a player, and so he had another girlfriend hanging around who knew this truth about the crystals, and she told the girl, and it was kind of a scene. And I was like, well, I guess that's what you get, you know. And we always went on with our lives, really. And that was actually the year of the Justin Klein incident, which I don't really want to get too involved in that. But long story short, it was December 2012, and I was trying to get back for 12/21, and my friend, same friend who had just taken me to the Valley for the first time, and the same friend I first started seeing the angel numbers with, warned me. She says, I have a really strange feeling that you shouldn't go back yet. And so I stayed, and then this incident occurred in the Valley where everybody got ran out. So it worked out that it was actually better for me not to go to the Valley. And then I went back a month later and went out there. And I was out there for a while, and after a while, some interesting things started happening. Oh, and one of the other things I have to mention is about 6 months later, I went out to California to visit these friends again because they were doing some musical stuff. And I remember spending like a week and a half out there with all these cool musicians recording music and stuff. And then my friend, who at this point I considered him a friend, who was doing the whole thing, was driving me to the airport. And he looked at me and he says, are you really going to just get back on an airplane right now and go back to the Valley? And I got to be honest with you, I felt like I was, like that was one of those moments where I could have just said, you know what, you're right. I think I'm just going to stay and become a rock star. And if I had made that choice, who knows where I'd be today? You know what I mean? But I was like, yeah, I'm going. And I was on a mission to get back to the island. And I was actually seeing this really awesome Kiwi girl. So I was excited to get back to her. And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, dude, like I'm already famous, man. Like I don't need to be a rock star. I just go back to the Aina, brah. Go back to Kalalau. And so I went back to Kalalau. And the Kiwi girl didn't work out in the long run. And I ended up started making videos and became kind of obsessed with this stuff and found my first crystal on the trail. And there was a lot of interesting stuff was going on at that time. And a lot of us who were in the Valley started to really feel like we were awakening to something bigger than just like, isn't this awesome? We're like living out here, fucking over the man kind of shit. And I came up with this idea of like bringing back the Lowies with some other people, and this was also around the same time that I began doing the GMO zombie videos with little fairy girls and stuff up in the Valley. And then there was this incident that occurred right before we get to the blood moons and the crystals. We're still dealing with the crystal skulls, but we'll get to the blood moon here eventually. But a side note was right before all the stuff started happening with the crystal skulls and the blood moons, I had gone up Valley and made this really cool video with this girl who was totally into it at the time about GMO zombies and fairies and stuff. And when I came back down from the Valley, I was filming this big swell that was coming in, and I was up on the bluff right on the lion's den, and it literally felt like something pushed the camera out of my hands. And the GoPro went off the cliff, and it's about an 80-foot drop, and it exploded on a rock halfway down. Like I literally watched my GoPro just like get pushed out of my hands and hit a rock and explode into like at least half a dozen pieces. And oh shit, here they're coming for me. That's actually my cue. Shit, I've been here trying to tell this story, and I've just spent a half an hour fucking around. Anyway, so we're gonna have to save here for a minute, and then we will continue with the story of Krazy Red and the Crystal Skull of Kalalau.